keep it moving like a windshield wiper.
We're back at the shop again, and this time we're going to be fixing a stupid issue that I was just talking about. The sensors. So gotta fix. I gotta take off the Vanos solenoid here, and then the sensor is right under here, which you can kind of see. So I got to take that little thing out of there. It's right in there. And then I got to reach under here and unplug it underneath the intake manifold. Hopefully that won't be a pain in the ass. But side note, check out this sick 540i. I believe it's an M Sport. It's not an M5. But it's got all the M5 stuff on it. So it's got the throwing stars. I'd never seen that before. That's really kind of weird. This is vinyl wrapped, but the rest isn't. So the M3 mirrors, it's a 6-speed. Pretty sweet, actually. See that? 540i. This is vinyl wrap. That's a nice job. The exhaust is, can't tell if that's stock or not. It looks aftermarket, but it doesn't have an indicator of what it is. And I haven't heard it start, so. But yeah, this is a really clean 540i M Sport. How many miles are on this? Anyway. Oh. You don't want to use an aftermarket sensor. Don't cheap out and just get the $100, whatever it costs. That one ran me about $100. And then I've got the this is, what is this? ATE. This is the ABS wheel speed sensor. So I got to get the wheel speed sensor on there. So all these should be pretty easy. And then what else do I have to fix in here? I think that's it. Yeah, I'm just gonna check the oil again, and that's it. So let's get to work. All right, I got the car on the lift. The one thing I forgot to do, I think it was the left ABS wheel speed sensor, but since I can't remember, I'm just gonna show you the diagnostic. Turn on the car. Okay, so what I have is the BMW 20-pin connector with the wireless Bluetooth, like, I guess receiver, whatever you call that. Pick out the leaves. You son of a bitch. Have you ever wondered how leaves and shit get trapped in places that you would never think they would? Anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that cap off, and since mine's broken where it holds it to the connector, I'm just gonna do that. There's a little Pac-Man shaped thing there. There's a little Pac-Man shaped female thing there. There, it just registered that it plugged in. So now I'm gonna come over to my diagnostic equipment. BMW, automatically confirm. So here's the sensor right there. So I gotta get a 5mm, take that out, disconnect it in this jacket here, so I gotta take all that out. So you just basically open this up. Let me take this out. So sometimes the wheel speed sensor gets it gets stuck in there, so you kind of got to give it a little tap with the hammer and kind of wiggle it loose because it's stuck in there. So I'm gonna you basically disconnect all this, and then you get to here, right there. So you kind of need to like just tap this a little bit. You're not trying to break it, you're just trying to tap it back and forth so that it kind of gets loose because it's seized in there usually. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then once I get that off, you know, check the brake pads and everything while I'm back here. Those are new, so I mean, pretty good life left on those, so that's nice. So what I did to get this out really easily is you put the flathead screwdriver behind, so this goes into the wheel here, so all you're gonna see is just this. This is genuine BMW, so this is really old. I've cleaned this off once before, and I noticed that, you know, it had some particles and everything stuck to it, so I was hoping that would clear the issue, but it didn't. So anyway, you stick a flathead down between here, and you just gently kind of pry it. So you basically pry it this way, so you're forcing it out this way. Gentle taps, you don't need to break it. This is old plastic, so it can be brittle, so you just have to be careful not to mess it up. Anyway, so I just tapped it out. So you just, you know, make a note that it goes around the shock here, and then my KW coilover has a spot for the sensor right in there. So anyway, take that out. This is hard to do with one hand, so I apologize. And then you're gonna disconnect it here. Let's get the new sensor out and just take a look at what it looks like. I've already looked at it, but oops. Ooh, nice. Looks pretty nice. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna get this in there, get this disconnected, fire that up, clear the code, and then we're gonna check it again before I do the camshaft sensor. Okay, so I just loosened up the Vanos solenoid. So when you loosen this up, a little oil is gonna come out, and that's okay. So I got my rag ready. I got my protective cloth. So I took it off with this 1 1/4 wrench, pretty huge. So I'll probably disconnect it, but anyway, so a little oil is gonna come out, not a big deal. Check to make I mean, I took this off somewhat recently, so the seal is still pretty good. So if you don't know, I mean, you probably should replace the washer if you're gonna take it out, but since I replaced it recently. Anyway, so that little pin in there, if you don't know how the Vanos solenoid works, so inside this here, all this does, and see it's dripping a little bit right now, not a big deal. Anyway, so when the Vanos solenoid activates, all this is sends an electronic signal, and that pin will fire out, and then it will retract. It should happen pretty quick. My old Vanos solenoid was kind of going bad, so the firing pin was really slow, so I bought a different one, and you can test it if you just put 12 volts of power to the connector, and it should just go click and then retract, and that's it. So anyway, here's the sensor right in here. This is the cam sensor right there. So I'm going to take out the 5mm socket, or sorry, 5mm Allen that I had before, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna need a wobble socket. So I guess we're gonna find out. This one's probably stuck in there pretty good because it gets a lot of heat. All right, it's got the 5mm. I'm gonna try and do as much of this as I can with one hand, but it's probably not gonna be very easy. Yep, I'm gonna need a stubby. So anyway, I'm gonna get this all prepared and then I'll take it out for you. Okay, so I'm using a 1/4 inch 5mm stubby Allen, and I'll take that out for you once I get this out. But this wasn't even that tight. I didn't even have to crack it, so that means that it wasn't torqued in there very much. And I guess you don't want to over torque that, but so that should just come out. So this is what I was using, just a nice stubby Allen there. And then I can take this out by hand now. There shouldn't be a gasket. There should just be whatchamacallit. Well, there will be a rubber gasket, but not a paper gasket like I thought. So, okay. Now this is going to be interesting because this won't come out unless I take off the Vanos line, probably. Bolt there. I think that's a 17. And they use a crush washer, so just take out that. It's gonna leak some oil, and then you take that off. And then once you, so while you're doing this repair, they say, because you're gonna have to get under the intake manifold, and you're gonna have to take off this vent tube. So I'll just take that off in a second. So if you got tiny hands, you can reach under there and disconnect this wire. So somewhere up in there, I gotta disconnect that and find it. And then, so some people recommend taking the intake manifold off or taking the oil filter housing off. Both are a pain in the ass, so I'm gonna try and get around both. There's your Vanos line taken out. Here's the banjo bolt. Now keep in mind there's 2 washers. If I buy one, here's a banjo bolt. This is basically what it looks like. It's got some holes throughout. So, and it's got a crush washer, so I'll go in there and find the crush washer, and then inside the tube, you know, it flows in here. So actually not a lot of oil came out. I'm kind of surprised, but I'll go ahead and set the banjo bolt over here. I dropped one of the washers, so I'm gonna have to go get a new one anyway, and it's a good idea to replace the washers. So now that I've got the Vanos line out of the way, I can at least get the camshaft position sensor out of the way, and there it is. Okay, so I figured something out that's gonna save you a lot of time. If you have small hands, here's how you can get this to work. So you take off the alternator, basically like the funnel, the snorkel, take that off. It's just a 6mm bolt right there. So you take this off, you have access to underneath the intake manifold here, so I just unplugged, that's the cable. So right where I showed you back there, see that connector right there? That's where you have to reach underneath. So it's kind of a tight fit, and it's kind of a pain, but all that is just a push clip, and you can barely reach in with your finger, push it, and just pull up. You don't even need that much force. And then my line routes under here, so I gotta snip the zip tie, so I'm probably just gonna take some snips, snip it out. I'm probably not going to secure it back again because it's too small to reach in there. So that's how you can do it without getting the intake manifold off or the oil filter housing. So if you're lucky enough and you have small enough hands, you can get it done, and then you can replace the crank, or God, I keep calling it the crank. It's the camshaft position sensor. So that is one way to do it. That's the way I'm going to do it. So all you need to do is disconnect the Vanos line there, the banjo bolt, that's a 19mm there, and then you take off the Vanos solenoid. You can use vice grips or a wrench, whatever you want, and then that's it. Okay, moment of truth. Fire it up. Just gonna do a cold start. 189, 805 miles. started right up, so that's good. So what I did was I took brake cleaner and I cleaned, I sprayed it all over the place, all up in there. Let's do a new session. But anyway, that's all you have to do. So I'm gonna check and make sure that that cleared the fault memory. I think it should. I'm gonna go test drive it. There you go. Nice, easy job. So that's all you gotta do for the camshaft position sensor and the ABS wheel sensor. I hope it was informative to you, and sorry the video's long once again, but it's just doing it the first time, so I mean that wasn't that hard, and I've never done it before, so there you go. All right, enjoy.